Alright, so we're going to go over the field, and what we're going to talk about is the field dimensions, the no-run zones, your team area, the line of game, various markers, tournament play, and alternate dimensions of how the field will look. Okay, so this is the field markings and not dimensions, but the field markings, colors, and different things that are available to you on the CIF Central Section website for the rule books. So there's not much on the CIF website as far as Central Section as far as flag football. And they do have the rules. It's a PDF. They have it somewhere. I can't always remember where I find it, but I do have a hard copy, so I printed it out. I have it in front of me. But they also have a PDF available online. But in that PDF, this is the available display of the field. So this is what you would have for reference. So it's not much. There's a couple other websites, there's other things you can find, but if you are in Central's, or if you're in CIF's Central Section, I have some information, and I'm going to show you what the field looks like with a little better view. Different sections, different divisions, states, they may have different rules, slightly different expectations, things like that. But I'm sure these are pretty much kind of generic, but I'll have a better view for you. So that's what we're going to go over in this video. So here's what generic football field looks like. It's 100 yards long, 2 10-yard end zones, and the width of the field is 53.3 yards. Fun fact about that, originally all the dimensions were done in feet, and then had to be converted into yards. I don't know deeper into that story, but that's what it is. The width is actually 160 feet, so converted into yards is 53.3. So that's what this field dimension is, and I'm going to show you from what it looks like on a football field, what flag football's dimension looks like, mainly because most teams are going to be using the school's football field. So what we have right here is your playing field length in general. So the length of the playing field is 80 yards, so from end zone to end zone, that's what you're going to have is an 80-yard field. And it's going to start at the 10-yard line on each side. This should be kind of universal. Now the width, the playing field width, so sideline to sideline, you're looking at 40 yards. And this visual, as you can see my arrows, the sides are roughly about just outside the numbers on this particular screen as far as what I'm showing as a reference. I did some kind of like Google Map references on different fields, and it's roughly about the outside of the numbers. Now, different schools have different size numbers, the font's different, but for the most part, this is kind of like the general area of what you should expect. The width of the field is just outside the numbers. Now, some schools might use their full sideline and then go over 40 yards. Just depends on how they want to do it, but what would make sense would just to be, kind of shrink the field and put it inside the football field, but to each his own, I guess. All right, here you have the end zones, and they're 10 yards deep. And what I have here, I made it like gradient, kind of like see-through, so that you can see the field, because on your actual field, you're not going to have a colored or filled in or painted end zone, because if you're playing on the football field, the main football field, they're not going to paint this, because they're also playing flag football is during the same season as boys football, or football. It's during the same season in the fall, so they're not going to do that. Now, if you have some field space and your school decides they want to build a flag football field, which I think they should, because it's a CIF sport, it's a high school sports is a thing now, so they should have, they're going to have to put, some sort of bond or levy to add flag football markings at least on some sort of field, or give the girls their own space. But like I said, I have this gradient here so that you know that it's actually see-through, or not see-through, but you know that it's just that space. So it's still going to be the width of the field, 40 yards, but the depth of it is 10 yards. And I just want to show you that there. Now you have a no-run zone, which the no-run zone, just the name of it, that space is 5 yards. So in general, the no-run zone is the 5 yards that's in front of the end zone. So before you go score a touchdown, the no-run zone is the space where you cannot do a run play if the ball's within that space. So 5 yards, so at the 5 yard line to the goal line, there's no run plays that can be called. And additionally, I'll explain the no-run zone in various areas of the field, and I'll explain that in a second. So first, here's the line to gain. They call it the line to gain. It's the same as a first down, but I think it's because of the concept of a first down is you have to gain 10 yards to get a first down. So in flag, I guess the terminology would be line to gain. And the line to gain is every 20 yards. So it's not 20 yards in general. It's every 20 yards on the field. So I have here marked with the orange dots, or the orange dotted line, is those are the line to gain markers. So if you run a play, so if you start first down, you get the ball, and you're at the 20 yard line, and you run a play and you get 18 yards. And then the next play, you run and you get 25 yards, which will now take you a little bit past midfield. You don't get a 20-yard first down. It's just you get the next line to gain. So those line to gains that you see on the screen here, those are stationary. They do not move. That's the place where you need to go to get a first down. So you get a new set of downs. So now, like I said, with the no run zone. So let's say, for instance, you're going from left to right, like I have on the screen here, and you're going to the end zone. So your no run zones are also the 5 yards before the line to gain. So on this graphic, so even though the field is marked at the 50-yard line, as far as the larger football field, that's actually the 40-yard line. So midfield, 40-yard line, there's a 5 yard no run zone before you get to the line to gain of the 40 or the midfield. Then there's an additional one on the other side of the field at the 20-yard line. There's 5 yards prior to that. That's also the no run zone. And then, of course, at the goal line. So it would be the same thing going the other direction. So I just want to show you what it looks like going this way. So the same thing, you start at your first line to gain. That's where that's where you start, is at the 20-yard line. So you start there, 20 yards is the midfield line. There's a no run zone before that line to gain, 5 yards. Then the next line to gain, there's a no run zone, and then the goal line, the end zone, there's another no run zone, which is 5 yards. So in general, you're gonna have 3 no run zones, and you're gonna have 3 opportunities to have the line to gain or score. Okay, so your team area, I have up here on the top in this yellow, lime green. Well, I'm colorblind. But in this box that I have up here on the sideline, that is the team area. So if you notice, I have it a little bit off of the white line there, which is the sideline, and because it's supposed to be 2 yards away from the sideline. And I know in football, referees are real sticklers of this, of not passing the edges, the barriers of what that box is. So so on the screen here, if you go down to the 20, well, the line to gain that's marked on the 30, that's actual 20-yard line. If your players and team, anybody part of the team is beyond that, that will be a penalty. You will get assessed a penalty, offense or defense, doesn't matter what side you're on. You'll be assessed a penalty, and it'll benefit the other team. So try to make sure you keep everybody in that box. That's kind of like the game within the game. I know some coaches kind of point that out, like, hey, they're past the 20-yard line. Say things like that, and then referees like, oh, there's a warning, throw a flag or something like that. Usually they're not too crazy like doing it on the coaches, but they will do it on the players. Additionally, the 2 yards away from the sideline, that's also because the referees are on the sideline and they're going with the play, so they can't have anybody in the way. They run into them, trip them, something like that. So you're interfering with the referee trying to call a play, or watch the play. So that's the other reason why it's 2 yards off the sideline. You can make them go even further back just as a practice, but that's something that you want your players to know, staff to know. Even if it's like the principals coming down, athletic directors coming down, they cannot be on that sideline. There's some other restricted areas. I'll make it another video to kind of explain that, but I just want to talk about the general, how the field looks in general here. So, and then also on the bottom, so it's both sides. So it's home and away, it's both sides of the field. There's your box. Okay, so now we have various field markers. There's markings or markers on the field that you'll see. So up in this top left corner, you have a yellow, like kind of flat pad and an orange flat pad. What I noticed looking online for like different vendors that supply these things is that those are sold separately. So they're sold as a yellow one, sold as an orange one. And what I've seen, they're about $15 a piece. It's just a rubber little pad and marking that sits on the ground. I mean, they're kind of heavy, so it's just, you don't have to worry about wind or nothing like that. But they are used to identify the line of scrimmage, so like where you snap the ball, like where the ball's placed, and then also the other side of where the no-run zone is. So this may be used in the middle of the field, it may be used on the sideline. They may look different. They might be flat cloth. They could be whatever. So there's going to be some sort of marking that lets you know the actual line of scrimmage, and then also the 5 yard window for the no run zone. Then in the top right corner, you have like the G for goal, for the goal line, the 20, 40, 20. So that's the lines to gain. So those are all the lines. Those are the main markings. You should have these already, because if your school has a football program, most schools already have these little pads that are on the sideline, because they're also part of setting up a football field. So only thing you don't need are the odd numbers, right? So you don't need 10, 30, and 50. So they would just use the 20, 40, 20 in the goal line. So if you don't really need to spend money on getting these, because you should already have it. But if you want something different, you guys have the money and you want to look all cool and give the girls all different stuff, which I'm all for, then go ahead and do that. But you should already have these. They're all orange. They're all pretty much the same. They're all generic. But that's the markings for the lines to gain. Now in this bottom left corner, this little orange stick, it's a pylon. So they're usually used to mark the end zone. So as you can see right here, this one is like at the corner. So you have the field, and then they mark it into the end zone. So that's just kind of letting people know like you crossed the end zone. It's also an area like if you hit the pylon, like with the football, you're the ball carrier, you hit the pylon, you made it in, it's a touchdown. They're also in the back of the end zone, just so you can see the boundaries, so you can see that you stepped out, or you're out of there. Just gives you an idea of where the end zone's at. The bottom right corner are cones. They also may use cones, and they can use different colors, just so that for different markings, there might be a color for the 5 yard no run zone. There might be a different color to mark the line of scrimmage. They might use them on the sideline. Referees might use them that way. It's a little bit easier because I'm running up and down the sideline, so I can just bring it with me. Your school may use cones, for the end zones. It just depends. The cones could be used to mark out your team area. There might be multiple cones just so everybody can, you can see. That's what they're for. They're for identification of something. So they're supposed to represent something. So you may also see cones. This in the middle is it's like a field marking, and it looks like it's kind of wrapped in an extension cord kind of line thing. Looks like a big old like piece of rope or something like that, or string straps. What it is, it's as you can see on this one, it says it's like for a soccer field, 20 yards right in length, but you might need longer than that. So people use these to kind of mark little playing areas, or they're doing drills or something like that. Your school can also use it to mark the end zone. So they might just have it so the back of the end zone, just so it helps the players identify it a little better. They can do paint, they can do whatever, but this just costs extra money that usually schools don't have. As far as they don't have this piece of equipment, so you will have to purchase that. You don't necessarily need it, but it does come in handy. It also comes in handy if you're practicing or you're putting up a field in like an empty space. and you don't have paint or you don't have access to paint or something like that, some other markings, this is also a good visual marking for sidelines and boundaries and things like that. So that's these are just kind of like general markers and markings you would see throughout the field. Okay, so this is on CIF's Southern section on their rule book. So this is what they have as far as what their fields look like at the end of their PDF. So this is the alternate fields. So this is if you're running tournaments. So you have 3 different kind of layouts. Now it could be several. There's a combination, right? Because it's all about what you're fitting, how many teams you're having there, how many games you want to run simultaneously. But as a player, as a coach, this is what you might see going to different tournaments. So you typically tournament play, and also I'll talk about that now too, is tournament play. Also, the fields are smaller. So what they can say is like and I'll just read it straight from the rule book. A field may be 20 yards by 40 yards, so 20 yards wide, 40 yards in length, with 2 10-yard end zones. There will only be 1 line to gain, which would be the midfield, and then the ball is spotted at the 5-yard line to begin the game. And this is just for tournament play, but also it needs to be approved by CIF, and if it's not approved for whatever you're doing, then it won't count. So this is just, some examples of what you see. This is just a video on the field, the playing field, and what's kind of like the very basics of the field itself. Hope you like this video, and always drink water, and thank you for being coach.